Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Martin, how are you? Good to see you.
I've got some questions. I brought this for later on for so far.
Morning, how are you? Good, how are you? Morning.
Morning.
We're working on a Sunday, mate.
Oh, mate, I always work Sundays. What are you talking about?
Nice, hopefully.
Did you get a demotion?
There's always a height differentiation between us.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah, that's all
I need
right.
to bring my tomato box.
Don't worry. Cindy Solis and my colleagues, in a similar situation to you.
Go go-karts here as well. Good.
You know, I'll ask you a question or two about COVID and the COVID hub.
Yeah. Good go. Thanks, mate. Yeah. All right. You're good to go? Okay. Terrific. All right. Lovely to be here at Albion train station for a couple of different announcements. What we've got is that we've been one of the world leaders in transport patronage, not just in Queensland, but right around the world. But the difference here is in Queensland, we still are one of the world leaders in terms of dealing with the virus, and our public transport is thoroughly clean, it's very safe, and what we want to see is more people back on our public transport systems to support small businesses in particular, particularly in the CBD. We want to see more people getting back to their usual routines to combat congestion as part of our economic plan for recovery. So what we've got today is a number of new announcements. One is the Golden Go card, which will be a year of free public transport for the winner, one drawn every week for the next 4 weeks. It's worth nearly $2,000 a year per person, and all you've got to do is register your Go card online from tomorrow to be in the draw and to ensure that you're travelling on a Monday and a Friday to be eligible. So what we want to see is more people getting back on public transport, and another measure there that we're bringing in is something we've been working with Bicycle Queensland on, and that is that with spare capacity on public transport at the moment, there's a great opportunity which we're going to take to allow people that ride a bicycle to use carriages, the first carriage or the last carriage. And we're going to start this trial from July the 1st so that people can mix their modes to get to work. So this is a measure that's been in place in other states, and it is time with extra capacity for people to do that here in Queensland. So Rebecca Randazzo here is the CEO of Bicycle Queensland. She'll say a few words on that in a moment, but we think this is a really smart move to get more customers back on the public transport system and get more people out of their cars onto other modes, and then everybody benefits from that. Because the reality is there's some people out there who ordinarily were public transport users before the pandemic who are now driving, and that's increasing some of the congestion on our roads. We'd like to see, obviously, things get back into a bit more balance there. Look, the third thing I just covered today is that the smart ticketing rollout across southeast Queensland continues, and so we're introducing, after some really effective trials on the Gold Coast light rail system, we're bringing it in at this station here at Albion and 9 other stations across North Brisbane and up to the Sunshine Coast, these new readers. And so there's no behavioural change needed from commuters, but what they'll find is that when they use their Go card at these stations, it'll be a testing phase in terms of the smart ticketing technology, which will allow you to pay in future with your smart card, smartwatch, your debit card or your credit card, whichever is the easiest thing that you'd like to use. And by the end of 2022, the whole of the southeast Queensland public transport system, which is one of the biggest geographic public transport systems in the world, you'll be able to just go on much quicker, and that means we will be able to provide more services more often because with the same level of infrastructure and drivers, because the boarding will be so much faster. So we're investing in public transport, not just big infrastructure like Cross River Rail and light rail on the Gold Coast, but also the smart technology that means it's a lot more efficient that you find in places like London, Chicago, New York, is going to be rolled out here in southeast Queensland. Rebecca, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, thanks. We're really excited to be here today, Minister. We wrote to the Minister back in March calling for this change in policy, as we saw great co-benefits for both the train network and the active travel network. So not only does it facilitate great benefits, but it helps Queenslanders find their 30 minutes of exercise a day. And as the Minister said, one less car off the road is also great for congestion and environmental concerns. So we're really excited.
Other states like New South Wales have had bicycles on trains for probably over a decade. It's been a long time coming for you guys. Is this something you've been pushing hard for?
Yeah, certainly. We've got correspondence from members back from 2016 that have called for this. So I was really excited to be able to call them this week and let them know that this is coming. And it really does open up the opportunity to mix those modes of transport. So it's going to allow people to go further on their bike and by public transport, which is a great thing.
And you hope this will actually encourage people to get on the bike, because you never see a fresh bicycle lane here, and you see in other states like Sydney again, New South Wales, where a lot of people are using their bicycles that have those varying modes of transport. Do you actually hope this will encourage more people to ditch the car and take a bike?
Oh, absolutely. Our members are telling us that this will definitely increase their participation rate on the bike. Being able to mix modes is really important, especially for those people that live in the outer suburbs. Being able to potentially split between public transport and active transport will see them ride their bike more.
Thanks, Rebecca. Any questions?
Minister, what's the comparison with the patronage pre-COVID to now? I mean, you say 70%, so what's...
Yeah, look, it's been varying a little bit. So we're generally just above 70% or so. We're getting a little bit more patronage on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Mondays and Fridays less so. So I think what we're finding is that some people are working from home, perhaps on those days attached to the weekends. But of course, we'd like to see more and more people using PT, and this is one way of encouraging it.
The government will be looking at that projected fare revenue over the next 5 years with the upcoming budget. Are there any predictions to how long it will take to get commuters back to where it used to be? The number of commuters?
Well, Jack, that's sort of the unknown that really no one around the world can answer at the moment, because it really depends on the rollout of vaccination and the progress we make with the pandemic. What we've seen, of course, is that we've been one of the slower countries in terms of our federal government getting access to the vaccine. We're keen to get it out as quickly as we can to people, but to what extent public transport responds to the pandemic, we haven't seen a global pandemic in 100 years. So we are all looking at things as they unfold and responding in real time.
On COVID and vaccine hubs, we've seen some articles this morning, some talk around this morning in the Courier about some massive vaccination hubs. How close are they? And those venues that were touted, some called Brisbane Exhibition Centre and also the Royal Showgrounds, how likely are they to be the venues?
Well, look, we are looking at a range of new vaccination clinics across Queensland. Of course, Queensland is very different to Victoria and New South Wales. We're the bulk of the population, one big city. It's very easy to roll it out in that scenario. The majority of Queenslanders live outside of Brisbane, so we've got to make sure that when we open these clinics, we have a clear, reliable supply every single day to make sure that we vaccinate people. We're in the detailed process of identifying those venues, but obviously we'd be looking at larger venues where you can socially distance, like convention centres, exhibition centres. They're all on the table to make things as easy as possible for people.
And I know it's early days, but how would it roughly work? Do you get triage based on whether you get Pfizer or AstraZeneca?
Well, look, there's a schedule there in terms of ages for people to roll out. I'll leave the details of that to Queensland Health to announce, but both of the vaccines are very effective, and we encourage people to be vaccinated. Of course, you can get vaccinated at your GP right now. Encourage people to do that. But what we'll see is these larger clinics roll out in the near future right across regional Queensland. We're the most decentralised state of any state in Australia, and we've acted quickly to deal with our vulnerable population. So, for instance, the Torres Strait has been complete for some time because the risk there around Papua New Guinea bringing it into the state was a big one. So we acted on that quickly, but also across regional Queensland we'll see these clinics rolled out, and I think people will welcome that.
Is lack of supply the reason why Queensland hasn't opened up these vaccination hubs yet? Is that the main reason why?
Yeah, look, we've got to ensure a reliable supply of the vaccine every time we offer it. So that's certainly been a factor. We've seen more than 100 countries around around the world doing a lot better than Australia in terms of the rollout of vaccination. But we're very positive about working with the federal government to maximise the rollout. even though we are one of the slowest countries in the developed world.
And when would the government expect those hubs to open?
Well, look, I'm not the Health Minister, but that detailed work is underway now, and I'll leave that to the Health Minister to advise, but I don't expect that that's too far off in the future.
Just finally, on amending that legislation on Friday for the planning purposes, is that just a tick and flick per se in terms of following the law, or is there another reason behind that? Is it unusual to use these sorts of precincts as a mass vaccination hub?
Oh, look, I don't think so. I mean, a lot of this is practical, and you've got to have certain things in place to offer them. There's one right now, open Cornwall Street, PA. I saw the other day going to get my flu, lurgy and medication. So there are options there that people can take, including their GP, and a lot of people have already done that. But the clinics mean we can do more people quickly, and that's what we want to see.
Minister, just back on this one, is Queensland Rail running at a loss? Is that why we're having to try and pick them up? Expenses outweighing?
Oh, look, public transport is always subsidised because, not just here, but most places around the world, and in particular here, because we have such a spread out population and low population densities, and the South East Queensland rail network geographically is one of the largest in the world in terms of a one payment system. So we already subsidise tickets hugely, up to 75%. But of course we want to see more bodies on trains because that means more revenue, it means less congestion on our roads, this is a multi approach to getting more customers back on our public transport system.
Are you afraid some people just won't go back, or you won't get those numbers again because people are working at home or decentralising?
Oh, look, I think people are responding to an incredibly unique situation, and that's absolutely normal and accepted. But I think when you look at the performance of Queensland in terms of stopping the virus getting around, we have been world leading. We want to stay that way, but it also means our public transport system is quite safe. So, look, some people still wear the mask if they don't feel comfortable. That's okay, that's fine, we support that. But there's a lot of capacity on our public transport system, and we just want people to know that there is that capability, and we want people to get back into that normal pattern of moving about because everybody benefits then.
But I just mean like the culture's changed, so people might go back to working in the city.
Look, in some cases that's probably true, that some travel patterns might adjust, that's true, but I think that sometimes there's clearly more people driving cars than there were before the pandemic, and that tells me that there are some people who have left public transport, they haven't come back yet, but if you give them the right incentive to come back, then they will, and the confidence. I think that's the important thing. And we've massively increased our cleaning on the public transport network. It's done regularly throughout the day across services. People should feel confident about that, and there is plenty of capacity for a comfortable ride to work on the train or the bus or indeed the ferry, and we encourage people to use that.
And lastly, when you say 70%, what sort of numbers are we talking? Just bigger countries, so we're talking hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands?
Yeah, look, we're sort of above the 100,000 mark, so it varies day to day. So there's about, I think, 120,000 a day across the public transport network. We were much higher than that before the pandemic, so there has been some considerable change, and that's understandable. It's people want to protect themselves, want to be ultra careful in many cases. We understand that, but given our performance here in Queensland in terms of the COVID pandemic, and the fact that we have a fantastic public transport system, we want to see a few people more back on it.
This is just a question on a completely different subject. A homeless woman has been raped on the Gold Coast because her attacker had been released on bail following a rape in similar circumstances months earlier, and then released again after breaching bail days before the second attack. Has this woman been let down by the system?
Well, these are shocking crimes, absolutely shocking crimes, and my heart goes out to the victim and victims. I haven't had an extensive briefing on this particular case, not being the relevant minister, but look, it is a matter for the courts, and I'm sure the government will be looking at the situation.
Do you think that this person should have been let out at all, given that the judge had massive concerns in the first place about giving them back?
Look, I haven't been briefed on this at all to any extent, so I learned of it only 10 or 15 minutes ago myself. So I don't want to comment about individual cases, and I particularly don't want to prejudice any court case in particular. I think I've got to be very careful not to do that.
One last question on your go-kart. Do you think a gold go-kart 4 times offered in the next month is enough to actually get people on public transport? Do you think you should be offering half price transport?
Oh, look, I think we've got to initiate the conversation around public transport use and encouraging it. I think that's the main thing. To be offering it free would be a very expensive exercise, which might not necessarily achieve more than having a golden go-kart. And as everyone knows, the pandemic's had a big impact on revenue for every government all around the world. So, we think this is a way of initiating the conversation, encouraging people to get in there and get a golden go-kart by just registering online. And of course, if you register online, your go-kart, if you lose your go-kart, we'll replace it, and you're in the system. It's actually better for you. If you're one of those people who runs around without a go-kart registered, there's benefits in having it registered as well for the commuter.
So I don't think it'd be better incentive though to offer half-price transport, or is it a fact that the government just can't afford it right now?
Well, look, there are incentives there. So if you have 8 trips, beyond 8 trips, it's 50% off. So we already do have discounts for people who are regular users. But we want to initiate a further conversation to encourage people back on our public transport system. And look, I also think that for a lot of people, being able to cycle that last kilometre from their train, then will encourage quite a few people to be active. You integrate a bit of exercise with your work routine. It makes life so much easier, and you're much healthier. I think we'll see quite a few people take that up, and I think that'll be a positive thing.
What's the mode of transport that's had the biggest drop in patronage? Is it the trains, the buses, the ferries?
Oh, look, we've seen a fair drop across all modes, I think it's fair to say, so ferries, buses and trains, and we'd like to see people come back. This is an incentive for people across, in terms of the golden go-kart, across all modes, so whether you're a bus, ferry or train patron, you can register your go-kart, be eligible for the golden go-kart. We encourage all modes to get involved.
Sorry, you on this one? No, you're right. Just last one. And if they don't pick it up, what's going to happen? You're going to drop some services or drop some times if there's not enough people catching public transport?
Look, we've made it very clear that we support public transport, and we've actually increased the number of services during the pandemic. August last year, we increased the number of services, so there's actually more services available than ever before. And despite some, so-called expert commentators saying we should cut services, we wanted to maximise the ability to socially distance all through the pandemic by actually increasing services. So we've shown our commitment to the public transport system and our commuters by not just keeping the services there, but actually increasing them, even though the numbers fell dramatically lower than what they are now during about this time last year.
But eventually you'll have to even it up again to have supply and demand at the same level, right?
Look, you've got to provide strong public transport reliability. That's what we've done. We've seen increases across our network throughout the Palaszczuk government. We've got no plans to make any changes to that.
Minister, we've seen on another matter, we've seen the Leader of the Opposition launch a petition overnight to restore breach of bailiffs and defence to try and tackle youth crime up in North Queensland. Is that something the government's willing to work in partnership on?
Oh, look, we've made very strong legislative reform to increase penalties and deal with some of the youth justice issues we're experiencing in Queensland, particularly in North Queensland. They've been very strong measures, and I think they'll be very effective.
But, with all due respect, I was up there 2 weeks ago and there were 32 sort of car thefts in that week alone, so things don't seem to be working. What is the government proposing that they could do to stop the current spree of youth crime?
Well, look, if it was an easy issue to deal with, it would have, we would have, or previous governments would have solved it long ago. It is a difficult issue. You've got to confront it from many different angles to get the outcomes that you want. We're continuing to work very hard on this, and you've got to make sure that you attack it from all different angles. So there's been legislative reform, there's been social reform, things to work within the community to help these people who basically are disconnected from society and taking it out on people. There's got to be a lot of work on multiple fronts. So anyone suggesting, particularly for political benefit, silver bullet solutions should be looked at with suspicion. All good? Okay. Thanks so much. Yeah.
Rebecca, I just wanted to